In 2023, a video game made nearly $1 billion by committing career suicide. It had no microtransactions, no battle pass, and was made by a studio that told its own marketing department to get lost. The result? The most successful RPG of all time. And a tidal wave of panic from every other major publisher on Earth. They called it an anomaly, a freak accident. They're wrong. This is the story of how Baldur's Gate 3 exposed the rot at the heart of the AAA games industry simply by being a complete video game.
Let's be honest, for the last decade, AAA gaming has felt like a toxic relationship. We were trapped in the era of games as a service, a business model that mutated from a promise of evolving worlds into a system of digital serfdom. You weren't a player, you were a recurring revenue stream. The product wasn't the game, it was the battle pass, the cosmetic shop, the time saver pack designed to sell you the solution to a problem the developers created on purpose. It was a hobby that became a second job, weaponizing FOMO to keep you grinding on the content treadmill. Worse, we were paying $70 for the privilege of being beta testers. Cyberpunk 2077, Battlefield 2042, Fallout 76, a graveyard of broken promises launched in shambles with a vague, "we'll fix it later" post-it note attached. The trust was gone. The community was exhausted, cynical, and absolutely starved for a real meal. They were waiting for a hero. They had no idea it would show up with a 20-sided die and a talking squirrel.
To understand Larian, you have to understand that they've been to hell and back. Founded in 1996 by Swin Vink, this Belgian studio wasn't an overnight success. It was a 25-year story of barely surviving. Their early projects were canceled. Their first published RPG, Divine Divinity, was a critical hit that made them basically zero money thanks to a publisher contract that was essentially theft. Their next big swing, Divinity 2, was rushed out the door unfinished by a publisher panicking during the 2008 financial crisis, leaving Larian in massive debt. Vink almost quit. This is the crucible that forged the Larian way. Burnt, broke, and betrayed, they made a vow: never again. They turned to the only group that hadn't screwed them over, the players. They launched a Kickstarter for Divinity Original Sin, and the fans showed up, funding the game directly. But even that wasn't enough. In a now legendary move, Larian delayed paying their own taxes to fund development. A gamble so insane that if the game had failed, the studio would have been wiped from existence. It didn't fail. It was a smash hit. They had finally made the game they wanted on their terms. This history of pain, risk, and community trust wasn't a backstory, it was training. It was the only way a studio could be prepared to handle the holy grail of RPGs.
The Baldur's Gate name isn't a franchise, it's scripture. The original BioWare games from the 90s are the Old Testament of computer RPGs. They are untouchable legends. So when Larian announced they were making the third one after a 20-year silence, the internet reacted with a mix of religious ecstasy and pure terror. The pressure was suffocating. Getting it wrong wasn't a flop, it was blasphemy. Wizards of the Coast, the owners of D&D, had actually turned Larian down years before. It was only after the triumph of Divinity Original Sin 2 that they realized Larian was the one. Why? Because Larian didn't just want to adapt the D&D rule set. They wanted to translate the feeling of sitting at a table with a human dungeon master, a DM who can react to your most unhinged, chaotic ideas. Their goal wasn't to build a game, it was to build a world so systemic and reactive that it could anticipate and reward player insanity. This was the perfect marriage, a legendary sleeping IP and the one developer on Earth with the right combination of reverence, experience, and a certified insane commitment to player freedom.
On October 6, 2020, Larian did something that would give any normal publisher a heart attack. They released the first 25 hours of their flagship game for a full $60, 3 years before it was finished. This wasn't early access. This was a public autopsy. They didn't just open the doors, they handed the community the schematics and a blowtorch and said, "Tell us what's wrong." And the community obliged. For 3 years, a live, transparent conversation reshaped the game. Players complained the companions were too mean, so Larian rewrote them to be more nuanced. The entire character arc for Will was overhauled based on feedback. They even split the jump and disengage actions because players found the original system clunky. This wasn't just bug testing. This was collaborative design on a massive scale, and it was the most brilliant marketing move in modern gaming. While other studios spent millions on CGI trailers, Larian was building a million-strong army of evangelists who were already deeply invested. They had seen their feedback become part of the game. By launch day, BG3 wasn't an unknown quantity, it was a proven masterpiece, and its army was ready to preach the gospel.
Forget the 17 hours of cinematics. Forget the 17,000 ending variations. The real magic of Baldur's Gate 3 is a design philosophy that borders on paranoia. Most studios design for what 99% of players will do. Larian designs for the 1% of Chaos Goblins. Their internal motto is, say yes to the player. They have systems in place for scenarios a developer described as, quote, the player may be a bear or something. There's a legendary sword you're supposed to get in Act 3. Clever players figured out you could cast a spell on the NPC holding it in Act 1, forcing him to drop it. Any other studio would patch that exploit out of existence. Larian, they recorded unique, fully voiced dialogue for your companion reacting to you, getting her ultimate weapon 2 acts early. They don't punish exploits, they reward them. This is a world built of systems, not invisible walls. You can stack crates to climb walls. You can throw your own boots to kill a boss. It's a game that doesn't just tell you a story, it gives you the tools to break its story and then applauds you for it. In an industry obsessed with squeezing every last cent out of you, Larian's business model was a middle finger cast in gold. On their FAQ page, the answer to are there in-game purchases was a simple, beautiful no. One price, the whole game. A Reddit post highlighting that single sentence went nuclear, with tens of thousands of upvotes from a player base beaten down by years of being nickel and dimed. This wasn't just a feature, it was a declaration of war against the gas machine. Then they took it a step further. After the game's monumental success, everyone expected DLC. Larian even started working on it. Then they canceled it. Sven Bink announced that their hearts weren't in it, that it felt like routine work and they'd rather make something new. Instead of paid expansions, they released massive free patches adding huge new features, like an entire epilogue. This pro-consumer stance became their greatest marketing weapon. The promise of a complete microtransaction-free RPG generated so much trust and goodwill that the players became their sales team, proving you don't need a battle pass if your game is so good the entire internet sells it for you. August 3rd, 2023. Larian hoped for maybe 100,000 concurrent players on Steam, a solid, respectable launch. They got a supernova. The player count blew past 400,000 in hours, peaking at a staggering 875,343 by the first weekend. This wasn't a launch, it was an invasion. Then the reviews hit, a tidal wave of perfect scores. IGN, 10 out of 10. A 96 on Metacritic, making it one of the highest rated games of all time. Then came the awards. It didn't just win Game of the Year, it became the first game in history to achieve the Grand Slam, winning GOTY at all 5 major award shows. It was a total conquest. And the money? By early 2024, it had sold over 10 million copies, grossing well over $500 million. For Larian, a studio that had operated at a loss the previous year, this was world-changing. They posted a pre-tax profit of nearly $260 million. They had proven, with the 9-figure exclamation point, that respecting the player wasn't just good ethics, it was a ridiculously profitable business strategy.
You'd think the whole industry would celebrate a success story this massive. You'd be wrong. In the weeks after launch, a strange defensive chorus rose from other developers and designers. The message was panicked and clear. Don't expect this to be the new standard. They called BG3 an anomaly, a perfect storm of a 6-year development, a 400-person team, and a beloved IP that couldn't be replicated. And sure, they're not wrong about the difficulty, but this wasn't friendly advice. It was damage control. It was a desperate plea to players. Please don't look at our upcoming live service game and ask why it isn't more like Baldur's Gate 3. The fear wasn't about scope. It was about the business model. The modern AAA industry is a machine built to please shareholders with predictable quarterly growth. Live service games with their endless revenue streams are safe. A 6-year single-player epic with 0 microtransactions is a terrifying risk. At the 2024 Game Developers Conference, Sven Venke himself called them out, slamming the publisher greed that leads to endless layoffs and creative bankruptcy. Baldur's Gate 3's success wasn't just a win, it was an indictment of that entire system. And that is a terrifying sound to 1,000 executives staring at a spreadsheet.
So, the campaign ends. Baldur's Gate 3 isn't a formula. You can't just copy-paste a 6-year dev cycle and a team of 400 fanatics. It's a philosophy. A proof of concept written in $1 billion of revenue that the player isn't a wallet to be emptied. They're an audience to be respected. The anomaly isn't the game's success. The anomaly is an industry that got so addicted to recurring revenue that it forgot how to make a complete product. That's the real lesson. That's the threat. Now, for the call to action, in the comments, tell me one predatory AAA trend you want to see die in a fire. Don't just like the video, hit the subscribe button and join the party for the next deep dive. Now get out there and make a persuasion check on the algorithm for me. Thanks for watching.